Speaker recognizes Representative Arbit.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to speak to the entire package?
Without objection, so ordered.
Madam Speaker, hate violence is different from other kinds of violence because it is terroristic in nature. There is never just one victim of a hate crime. An entire community is victimized too. Hate crimes tell all those who share a victim's identity, people like you aren't welcome. People like you don't belong. People like you aren't safe. That's why, amidst rising hate crimes in the state of Michigan, we're rising up too to fight it. Today is a day that I have dreamt about for so long, because today we can finally begin to say that we are transforming the state of Michigan from a national laggard to a national leader on hate crimes prevention, intervention, and response. At a very fundamental level, enacting this legislation is why I am here. Taking on hate and extremism is one of the biggest reasons I decided to run for this office. It is what drew me into politics in the first place. On October 27th, 2018, I received a news alert on my iPhone. 11 Jews killed at a mass shooting at a synagogue in Pittsburgh, in what was the deadliest attack on the Jewish community in American history. In response, I founded the Michigan Democratic Jewish Caucus, helping to lead the fight against anti-Semitism, hate, and extremism in this state. Later, I served as Director of Communications at the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, where I observed how difficult it can be to decide whether to issue charges under the Ethnic Intimidation Act. When I decided to run for the House, I promised the people of West Bloomfield, Commerce, and the Lakes that if they elected me, I would move heaven and earth to combat rising hate violence in the state of Michigan. I was told by members of the political class that making this my central campaign issue was dumb, because hate crimes were not a kitchen table issue, and that voters wouldn't care. I was told that if I didn't change course, I would likely lose my primary. Well, Madam Speaker, I didn't lose. I knew my community, and I knew my own heart, too. I knew that as a proud Jew and a gay man, I will never sit idly by and watch as the communities I am part of face rising hate violence. I knew that I will never sit idly by and watch any community in this state face rising hate violence. The fact is, I am sick of walking past police cars and bomb-sniffing dogs outside my synagogue. I'm sick of checking for hiding spots at the gay bar should a gunman open fire. I'm sick of my Chaldean constituents being murdered at their places of business. I'm sick of reading headlines about mosques, churches, and gurdwaras being vandalized and desecrated. I am sick of my Black and Asian neighbors being forced to have the talk with their kids about neighborhoods and cities they cannot go to, about how they have to navigate a world that is too often racist, where one wrong step could result in vicious, hate-filled violence. Michigan can be so much better, and it's about time that we were. In 1982, two auto workers who blamed Japan for turmoil in Michigan's auto industry murdered Vincent Chin, a Chinese-American man, at a bar in Highland Park. Vincent Chin's brutal murder sparked a nationwide movement to enact state hate crime laws. In 1988, the legislature passed what is known as the Ethnic Intimidation Act, but it hasn't been amended even once since its passage, 7 years before I was even born. In the 35 years since, Michigan has seen an unabated rise in hate crimes with no corresponding legislative action to address it. Reported hate crimes and bias incidents have increased almost every single year in the past decade, while Michigan's legal architecture to address it remains stuck in 1988. The result is Michigan racking up the 5th most hate crimes of any state in the country, while maintaining one of the weakest, inadequate, and toothless hate crime laws of any state in the country. The fact that gay Michiganders, Michiganders with disabilities, and seniors are still unprotected from hate crimes under Michigan law is egregious and intolerable. The Michigan Hate Crime Act, introduced alongside my colleague from the 82nd District, rectifies this wrong. In addition to strengthening penalties for the most severe hate crimes, my bill begins to position Michigan as a national leader in restorative justice for hate crimes. Madam Speaker, it is vital to understand that as my bill protects gay people, it also protects straight people. As it protects Jews, it protects Christians. As it protects Black people, it protects white people. As it protects women, it protects men. This is intentional. Although racial, ethnic, religious, and sexual minority groups are far and away the most common targets of hate violence, no Michigander should ever feel unsafe or threatened because of who they are or the community they belong to. The second part of the package, the Institutional Desecration Act, introduced alongside my colleague from Canton, makes it a hate crime to deface, destroy, or vandalize houses of worship or other communal property. Hate crimes targeting faith-based institutions and other types of communal property have skyrocketed in Michigan over the past decade, as we saw in the Rochester Hills Mosque that was vandalized in 2021, and just last month at a Royal Oak Synagogue that was vandalized with a swastika 4 days after we introduced these bills. It is time for Michigan to address these crimes by joining the 35 other states with a similar statute on the books. Madam Speaker, I also want to be very crystal clear about what this bill does not do. This bill does not infringe on anyone's First Amendment rights. While free speech, including hate speech, is a protected right, no one has a constitutional right to threaten or commit a criminal act against another person because they don't like how they look, how they speak, how they worship, or who they love. In fact, the Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of anti-hate crime laws since its landmark Wisconsin v. Mitchell decision in 1993. So yes, Madam Speaker, this legislation is vital, but it is by no means a panacea. Hate is a social ill that we need to tackle as such, and this legislation is no substitute for that work. Rooting out hate and extremism from our society requires not just a whole of government effort, but a whole of society effort too. It is on each of us, individually and collectively, to cultivate spaces among ourselves, our friends, our neighbors, our colleagues, our children, where hate has no purchase. Because no matter how much I wish it were otherwise, we cannot pass a bill that gets rid of anti-Semitism or anti-Black racism or anti-Asian racism or homophobia or Islamophobia. What we can do is tackle hate when it dovetails with a criminal act. What we can do is improve Michigan's tools to respond, pursue justice and accountability, and create opportunities to deter hate violence. That is what these bills achieve. Recently, I learned that the original sponsor of the Ethnic Intimidation Act in 1987 was Representative David Honigman, a Republican from West Bloomfield. In 2012, Representative Lisa Brown, a Democrat from West Bloomfield, introduced legislation to amend the law, but it never got a hearing. I had no idea about this history until a few months ago. To learn that I am building on a legacy of legislators from my community, leading the fight against hate crimes makes today even more meaningful. It is bashert, or how we Jews would say, meant to be. I also want to thank our extraordinary Attorney General, Dana Nessel, for her partnership in developing this legislation. I and the people of this state owe her a debt of gratitude. Madam Speaker, I will continue with a final thought. Hate crimes are always committed to send a message. Now is our chance to send an even stronger message that we will not tolerate hate crimes anywhere in the state of Michigan, and that Michigan's justice system will treat hate crimes with the seriousness and severity that they are due. And for every Michigander who has ever been threatened, harmed, or assaulted because of who you are, this legislation is for you. We will not let you down. Madam Speaker, I implore my colleagues across this House to vote yes on the Michigan Hate Crime Act and the Institutional Desecration Act to finally protect all Michiganders from hate.